I'm just sending 2 more texts, and then that's it.
That's it.
Hold on, let me know ASAP. Has to be money orders. Vehicle to Hojo.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jesse, and welcome to the Jess Takes a Village podcast, where we focus on regular people who have used their education, whether it be formal, vocational, or even life experiences, to propel their lives in a positive direction. Clearly, from the setup, you can see we're in a different place. We're in a different place, a different vibe. We're actually in a whole different kind of lounge. Ladies and gentlemen, to my left, the owner of Vice Lounge, coming out of Brooklyn, New York, 211 Kings Highway, Maria Garcia. Clap it up for yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No problem, no problem. If you're a Brooklyn native and you're ever coming up Kings Highway, come to Vice Lounge. Come get your hookah, your drinks. But more importantly, come meet the vibe that is Maria. Now, it's early afternoon. Vice Lounge doesn't open for another 2.5 hours, or maybe two. And I figured, why not sit down and get to know the person, get to know the name behind the brand. How'd you get here, right? Because my prior guest, the guest before you, she has her own private practice, right? And in that private practice, she details, how compensation works, the insurances that she takes. But you are actually the first guest who is 100% a business owner. You have a storefront and everything. So, for lack of better terms, why a lounge? Why Vice Lounge? Let's start there.
Wow. Okay. So well, we go way back. So
All
you
right.
actually were one of my first customers. That was a very loyal customer, a regular, and you were here since kind of like when we had started, which was
Absolutely.
3 years ago.
Sheesh, time is
Um,
flying. Mm-hmm.
but that's not how it started. So the same location used to be a coffee shop. A
Oh,
coffee shop, a very different setting, very
absolutely.
plain, espresso, cappuccinos. We would put on,
Lattes. Yeah.
lattes, we had a very different clientele. It was
Yeah.
mostly, Albanian
Okay, so was this like an
customers.
Albanian neighborhood?
Well, we have a lot of Albanian
Okay.
people in this neighborhood, yeah.
Okay, okay.
And because how we bought it, it used to be owned by Albanians,
Oh,
and
okay.
then the same clientele, we kept it the same, so we just had the same regulars because we already knew
Okay.
these
So you just
these
changed the
guys.
face and kept the people.
We just kept the same business,
Yes,
just changed
okay.
ownership.
Okay.
Um, but from there, so we were, it's the reason we kept it that way was obviously for financial reasons.
Okay.
But once
Oh,
we
cheers. Sorry.
cheers. But once we wanted to bring in a different crowd,
Right?
a younger crowd, a
Absolutely.
more livelier crowd, and we were ready to step up the business game into something a little bit, more. We wanted a little bit more. You don't really make enough with just coffee, and
You don't,
such. You really don't.
unless you're Starbucks.
Right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we already knew how to make hookah.
Okay.
That's a very popular thing right now with the
Absolutely.
younger crowd, and we had the liquor license and everything already in place. We just kind of redecorated to kind of bring in a
Right.
different
Spruce up the
crowd.
place a
Yeah,
little bit. Absolutely.
make it a little bit more girlier, make it cute so the ladies can come and take pictures. Instagram is a big marketing tool that everybody should take
Absolutely.
advantage of.
Take advantage of Instagram,
Yeah,
people.
Instagram is great. And it's free if you know how to use it. You don't necessarily have to pay for it.
No, you don't.
And yeah, so that's how I started promoting it. So I started bringing in some promoters
Absolutely.
and such. And slowly but surely we started getting a different crowd, and
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to promote on TikTok, and
Okay.
I had, like ladies come in, ladies
Absolutely.
night and stuff.
Absolutely.
And then here we are 4 years, 3 years later.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing throughout your whole story is the process, right? You just keep adding on and adding on and adding on. I feel a lot of the notions of when people do start these businesses, they expect just to have everything at once, right?
No, it
And
came slowly.
yeah,
It came very slowly.
but the key words used were slowly but surely,
Mhm.
right? So you have this plan. You want to revamp a coffee shop and turn it into a lounge, right? You want to add woman, add music, a livelier crowd, a different demographic. How did you know to do that? Because it's very easy to say, I want to start a business. But why did that go into your head? Why did you say, in order for this to actually work, I need to change a lot of things, like a lot of tweaks in the engine, you know? How did you know to do that?
Well, um, prior to having this business, I did have another business.
Okay.
So I kind of used my knowledge that I had already
Right.
because I knew that an older clientele is safe,
Yeah.
but it's never going to give you the big money.
Absolutely.
And I was young enough to have hunger and appetite for more, and I wanted to shift into having like a younger clientele, you know, because they spend more money and they drop more
Absolutely.
money, and you know they spend on hookah drinks and they'll have bigger checks.
Happy hour after work.
Yeah, there we go.
Absolutely.
Right. So you know, I knew that I needed to bring in that a certain type of clientele that's gonna, you know, have these bigger checks and stuff.
Absolutely.
So, because I used to have a restaurant in Park Slope.
Wow.
That a Mexican restaurant. And yeah,
Okay.
it was known as Santa Fe Grill for 30
Santa
years.
Fe Grill. Okay.
And then when we took it over, we put a little Mexican spice to it,
Okay.
and we put it Santa Fe Veracruzano
Okay.
because my family's from Veracruz,
Veracruz. Right.
in Mexico. So so there, obviously, Park Slope is a more, you know, it's an older
Absolutely.
clientele, which is nice and it's consistent and it's, you
It
know,
keeps it like this though.
right, right. You'll
Very
never,
standard.
you'll never like,
Very standard. Right.
it'll never give you the money that, you know, I was
Absolutely.
looking for,
That
you
you were
know.
aiming for. No, which
Right.
is absolutely right, because when you do,
But money's not everything. Money's not everything.
it's
But
not. But when you do start a business, you do have target goals, right? These big Fortune 500 companies, even the medium companies, if that's what you want to call it, they have yearly goal projections. They have 5-year goal projections. Like, you ask yourself, okay, when I get into this, what am I going to get out of it, right? I want to charge this for the margaritas. I want to charge this for the wings. I want to charge this for the bottles. And you tell yourself, hopefully we can make this for the year or this in 6 months. And it's so important that whenever you start these businesses, right, it's one thing to get it off the ground, but on top of that too, you actually want to plan out the moves for this year, the next year,
right.
the third year, because you know the golden rule. It takes 5 years for a business to fully lift its legs off the ground. But if you're doing this without a plan, that 5 years is gonna extend.
Right.
And sometimes a lot of businesses don't even make it to the 5-year mark. So to me, that's very like inspiring. But I'm also hearing this notion of, you like to look at businesses, come in, take over, spruce it up, and move on to the next. So this business mindset you have, now some people have the gift of being born with it. Where'd that come from?
100% my father.
Ah.
My father. And I believe he was born with it because he came from poverty.
Yep.
And his parents had no business background at all. You know, they were barely,
Yeah.
I mean, they were barely alive, basically, you know.
Get your barbecue wings advice.
But he, you know, even though my father didn't even finish high school, really, he has a very
business sense.
A business sense, mathematical. You know, he understands negotiations. You know, and he always had that. And he always, I mean, since me and my sister, were very young, he always taught us, save your money, invest your money. Me and my sister, we've never been scared to take very, very expensive risks in our life. We've done it multiple times.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly. Not always, but you know, you can't be afraid to do it.
Right.
And sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. Most times we've been pretty good at it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you can lose, and that's okay. That's how you learn. A lot of people these days, they're so afraid to even lose $1. Oh my God, no, that's my money. I work hard for it. Yes, people do work hard for it, but how come they're so easily they'll drop $1,000 on these name brands
on a designer bag. Absolutely.
That's not giving you anything in your pocket. It's just taking away. It's just there to flaunt it to people. Absolutely. That's all it's for. So people rather spend their money on that than invest their money on something that can potentially actually give them back money back into their pocket, right? This is
Absolutely.
every time I talk to people, I always say, okay, what's the difference between spending, right? You have assets and then you have liabilities, right? Unfortunately, minorities, like the way we are,
Absolutely.
only know how to spend money on liabilities. They don't know how to
Spend money
give
on yes.
value to assets and spending
Amen.
money on assets. And this is why I always talk about these things with my circle. If you're not talking about these things with your circle, you have to change your circle, unfortunately, because as you grow older, you realize that if you're constantly just spending your time talking about other people rather than talking about businesses and money and finances and stocks and projects and future ambitions and all these things, then you have to there's something wrong with your circle that you're not inspired enough to have these conversations. How many times have we
Absolutely.
every
Oh
time
yeah.
you come here we always have a conversation
Yeah.
about something that's going to better our lives.
Absolutely. And I think one of the most one of the best advices I think you've ever given me was why not now? And since I've met you 3, 4 years ago, it's always been the why not now? I give you an idea. Well, I don't really know if I should. You always said, Jesse, why not now? What are you waiting on? So many people, myself included, we're so afraid to jump into the pool
Hmm.
because we never know how deep the water is. We leave everything open to chance. And sometimes we're scared to lose the dollar because the fear is when will we get this dollar back? A lot of us can only see for Monday and Tuesday and maybe Wednesday.
Right.
The business minded people, they see Monday all the way down to the ending of the month and maybe to the ending of the next 3 months. So it takes a special kind of grit to me and a special kind of character to have an idea in your head and then have you sign up on a wall, right? Because
Right.
that's when you have a dream, it's just in your imagination. But then when you execute the dream, it becomes tangible. It becomes a real thing.
Hmm.
You can touch the wall. You can put the keys in the door. Like
Right.
this is your business. So with that being said, you have Vice Lounge. You're running the business. What are some things about the lounge business that you've had to learn the hard way?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to having a lounge,
Right?
right? But there's also it's not for the weak.
It's
It's
not.
not for the weak.
Yes.
It's not for the weak.
Explain why.
Whew, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, if you can be lucky enough that you trust people and you can put a manager and you don't really have to be at the business, great for you. But that costs money.
It
Just,
does.
take into consideration that. But if you're here, and you're managing it, it can get pretty crazy, hectic. People drink, people
Hmm.
they get in a party mood. Sometimes, I mean, I'm blessed to say that there was times that we had a line
Hmm.
out the door, and it was so packed in here. But obviously, with that comes, with younger crowd comes risk
And a
and a
lack of
little
maturity.
danger. Yeah.
Absolutely, you're right.
So there's been times where there's fights or disagreements, and
Absolutely.
you always have to manage these risks, right? You need security. But so with these types of businesses, it's high risk but also high reward, right?
Okay.
That's why I was saying some people prefer the consistency and
Hmm.
the safe investment of different clientele, right?
Absolutely. Because you know what you're getting out of certain people. You
Right.
know Johnny's gonna come here every Friday, spend $60. You'll see him next week.
Right,
Right.
exactly, right? And older crowds, they just come in for dinner, and you don't really make a lot of
You're
money
out of
on
there.
liquor. But
Right.
liquor, you make more profit
Hmm.
off liquor and even more off hookah percentage wise than food, really. I've never been
Absolutely. As of now. Hmm.
right. So you always have to weigh these pros and cons
You don't.
for your goals,
I actually
right?
do appreciate the honesty. Sorry to cut you because not too many people are gonna admit that when you open a lounge, these are the possibilities of things that can happen. Somebody else would have been like, well, sometimes we have days when there's not a lot of people. Sometimes we have days when there's a lot of people, but you clearly said it. There are some days when the line is out the door. And there's some days when the line isn't that long.
Right.
There's some days when it's calm in here. And there's some days when people are arguing. But these things are the normal things. These are the things that people exclude. You know, prior to the interview, I asked Maria, I said, why is it business people don't ever give us the full spiel? You know, too many people, when they become successful, oh, you know, I did this and I got from point A to point B. Nobody ever speaks about the in betweens. And here you are telling the world, which you should be applauded for, yo, this shit is not easy. It's not.
It's not easy,
Sometimes
yeah.
there are arguments, and one of the key things you said, sometimes you got to get in there, you have to manage. Now, what does managing look like? Maybe you got to separate this person from this person. Maybe you have to kindly ask somebody to leave. Maybe you have to say, okay, you know what? This person isn't drinking anymore tonight. These are the things that I feel are so important. So if there's a kid out there, not to call them kids, or if there's somebody, even an adult, who wants to transition into this business space, they need to watch this. They need to tune in because this is as real as it gets.
Right.
You know, you can't sugarcoat anything for anyone. And I feel like the minute people stop sugarcoating things and they start speaking on their struggles, more and more people become relatable.
Well, I'm gonna tell you another thing. You brought
Yeah,
up a good point that sometimes people don't like to give you
they don't.
all the in betweens
Mm-hmm.
that got them from A to Z,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Word.
They just want to like kind of just be like, yeah, I did it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I got here, right?
Yeah.
So part of it is also gatekeeping, right? There's a lot of gatekeeping in our community because we're so sometimes we can be a little envious or this and that, right? We
Absolutely.
need to be able to to teach people to talk about it, to inspire people to do the same thing because just because one is doing well doesn't mean that everybody
And
can't
do well.
can
Absolutely.
do
I agree with
well,
that 100%.
collectively, right?
As a collective.
So we have to make sure like we push our people to do better for themselves, to want more, to have businesses and have corporations and know how to do all these things. Open up an LLC, open up, how to take advantage of like our tax system legally. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? It's important. It's important to be educated and to find out how these programs really work, you know? Just like for example, like going off
Yeah.
the story of my father. My
Mm-hmm.
father had no idea about these things,
None.
right? None. And he was here. He started as a dishwasher,
Yep.
a bus boy. Started from the bottom, 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 right, for a long time. And he slowly, went up the chain to waiter, then manager, and then we were able to purchase our first business after he was there working for like 30 years. Sometimes you have to take these
That was the
opportunities, right?
sacrifice. That was the sacrifice, right?
So that's one. And then two, after he worked for a while, he saved his money, he saved his
Mm-hmm.
money, and then he wanted to buy a property in Florida, right? When everybody told him, no, that's very risky, that's very risky, he didn't listen to these people. Everybody told him, that's too risky. Even my mom, everybody
Yeah.
was like, oh, no, my God, that's our life savings, no, no, no. Fast forward, it's one of the best investments that he's ever made. Great investment property. No matter how many people tell you no, if you feel it in your gut and the numbers make sense,
When you know, you know.
you just have to kind of like see the property. Where is it? Use your intuition,
Yeah. Do
see
your
where,
research.
do your
Absolutely.
research, do
Do your
your
research.
homework, do your due diligence, right?
Absolutely.
But also, regardless of how many people tell you, and these most of these people that were telling him no were also investors and were also like people that owned properties. They weren't
Yeah.
investors. They were people that owned
Yeah.
things, right? They
Okay.
were wealthy people.
Yes.
But they also, just because you're wealthy doesn't mean that you always take crazy risks.
Absolutely.
But
Some people are wealthy with a comfort blanket
right,
behind them.
right, exactly.
Absolutely.
So he did it regardless, and one of the best
Damn.
investments that he's ever made. Yeah. And I'm grateful to my father because just because in our Mexican culture, a lot of
Yeah.
times they can be, fathers can be machista,
Well, absolutely.
right? Because he had no son. He
Yeah.
has only two daughters.
Absolutely.
But no, that never stopped him from always explaining to us his each and every move, why he's doing it, where he's doing it, with who he talks. He always made sure I was in every room where he was doing any negotiating, any
How
asking
vital is that?
questions,
Very, yeah, man. That's
in
amazing.
every room. Phone call, anything. Whether it was just there listening or he made me a very active participant in every transaction that he made. He
Wow.
always made me feel like his right hand for my entire
Yeah,
life since I was like 14. Obviously, it starts somewhere. It starts with like translate this and help me pay this bill and help me pay that bill, and then obviously later it progresses to let's go check out this house, let's go look at that house, let's go ask this real estate agent how much this is and how much are the taxes and what would be, and then it goes to like we have the closing tomorrow of our house, and then this, it progresses from there. But you need a parent that's going to teach you these things, because that's your biggest lesson, your biggest teacher. When you see your parents, how they handle their finances, that's probably the habits that you're going to pick up
absolutely.
going into your adulthood.
Absolutely. What you see is what you know, especially when
Right.
you're a child.
Right.
I mean, it just sounds like your dad, put the batteries in your back at a very, very early age, and you actually benefited from it. Now, I'm pretty sure at 14, I don't know if you had the same appreciation level for your dad saying, "Hey, do this. Hey, do this. Hey, do this," because look, you're a teenager.
That's so funny.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
want to go out, you want to have fun, but dad is like, "Hey, do this, do this." And maybe, and always correct me if I'm wrong, maybe at that age you don't have the same level of appreciation for it.
Never.
But then as you get older, you like, holy shit. And this
Exactly.
is why I feel like certain things, I don't want to call it delayed gratification, but certain things have to marinate for years before you like, man, that was good for me. I needed that. Like I needed to learn how to be wholesome. I needed to learn different things. I needed to sit in these rooms because you have people our age who have no type of business inclining. They don't know anything about anything. And it's not their fault. They just weren't made aware of these things when they were younger. It's like they were sheltered to that regard. Because think about it, not to be sexist, but a lot of women in our culture, they're not really, I'm not saying it's not allowed for business to be taught, but there's a certain stigma, especially for women. A lot of women, oh, well, maybe you'll do this. Maybe that's not work for you. Maybe we'll leave that more to the men. But here
Hmm.
you are, Mexican American background, having a business, kicking the door down, right? Because how many times do we see this? It's already hard for you as a woman, right? But now, as a woman of color, you're making all of these strides and all of these advances. And one of the best things that you're gonna learn to appreciate about Maria, for everybody who's tuning in, is Maria does not believe in excuses. Maria's the type of person, if your legs don't work, why haven't you bought your
Right.
wheelchair?
Yeah.
If your
Exactly.
arms don't work, why aren't you running? If
Right.
you can't drive, why aren't you walking?
Hmm.
Where did you develop this no excuse policy from?
My father.
There we go
My
again.
father.
Yeah.
Everything's my father. There's no excuse to anything. Yes, I am a woman. Yes,
Yeah.
I am Mexican,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is a minority here, right? But I don't believe any of that has ever stopped me from
Good.
doing anything. I never felt like I struggled just the same as anyone else, whether I was a guy or a girl. I feel like
Absolutely.
I wasn't, I don't think it was any harder
Mm-hmm.
because I was a woman. I was lucky enough to have access to like my father teaching me these things.
Yeah.
But I don't really think there would have been a difference if I was a man or that I'm a
Well,
woman.
the only reason why I had brought up that point earlier, as you spoke about plenty of times, in corporate America, at times, there are times when a man will make $1, and every time a man makes $1, a woman makes 75 cents, right? So there's always, I'm only just saying in terms of a pay disparity, right?
Well, I mean, I have my own opinions on that if you want to go into that.
And listen, you'll be more than welcome to talk
Right.
about it because we have these
Right,
conversations
of
all the
course,
time.
yeah.
Now, granted, I'm not saying use the hurdles as a crutch,
Hmm.
like we always discuss off camera. I'm not saying that,
Right, right,
but the hurdles are there.
right,
They're there. Now, just because a lot of them haven't really been so apparent to you and you're still like knocking on the door, more power to you,
right,
But they are there, and how we respond to these hurdles. I always say one thing I appreciate about you, you're vigilant, you're resilient, and nothing stops you. It doesn't matter if the wall is 10 feet tall, you're going to start doing your push ups now just to climb the wall by next week. Not everybody has that grit.
right.
And because they don't have that grip, those hurdles that you can skip over,
Hmm.
other people have to climb mountains for it.
Right,
But your response.
right. So sometimes perception can be more crippling than you think, right? So 100% that's true. Obviously,
Absolutely.
like there will be difficulties because I'm a
Mm.
woman, and
Right.
I have to constantly like there will be some people that see it as a weakness. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine. You know what I mean? Like men and women are built different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yes, I can do it, and that's fine. People's perception should not change your ability to do things and your confidence to do
Mm-hmm.
things. And a lot of the reason that a lot of people don't do certain things is because they feel like because of whether it's their gender, whether it's their race, whether it's their socioeconomic background, that they're not able to do it or meant to do it or the system is working against them.
Mm-hmm.
So just because of that perception that so many people have, a lot of times that's the most crippling uh like part of it, of the equation, than the actual hurdles. Yes, there's going to be hurdles, but there's going to be more hurdles that have to do with economic opportunity, which a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people can look. You can, there's so many loans and grants that you can apply to for different programs. It's just a barrier sometimes of information, that
Or
if you
lack
don't.
thereof.
Right,
Absolutely.
lack of, right? And whatever you put your mind to, you just have to know that if you work hard enough and you have enough grit and you have more confidence in yourself, and you don't care for all these obstacles, or you don't care about this perception that just because of the way you look or the way people perceive you, you're not able to do it. Mm-mm. You can do whatever you want, right? You just have to put your mind to it. Yes, if there's barriers and you have to work 3 times, 4 times, 5 times harder because of whatever you think it is, it doesn't matter. Still do it. Prove them wrong, right? You want to be able to go up in life and build this generational wealth, to pass
Absolutely.
down to your kids. And this is what we should be motivating each other to do. And this is what we should be constantly reminding each other of what to do, instead of reminding each other of our inabilities, or no, our inequalities, or whatever you want to call it, our obstacles, right? We should be uplifting each other and like talk about how to get to our
Next level.
goals,
Or
right?
yeah, right. I agree
Right.
because one thing I've always admired about you is you really just is I will always go back to it. It's just no excuses. And you're someone who's been in the depths of it. Now you're at a point in your life, you own an establishment, not to put your stuff out there, you own property too. And it's like the trajectory in which you're going, let's say it's 5 years from now, where would you see yourself?
I don't think I'm going to give you the answer that you're expecting. So,
That's no. And
right,
listen,
right,
any answer is
right,
open.
right.
Any answer is open.
So I feel like my 20s, I was so focused on making money and, putting all my time and effort into, investments and
Yeah.
all my finances, right?
Yeah.
I was so focused. I was like, it was tunnel vision. I was just,
Mm.
I gotta hustle. I gotta work hard. I gotta work hard. I gotta, save my money and
Hmm.
buy a property, and then and then once you do that, start over, and then
Yeah.
again work like you have nothing and
Hmm.
keep on working. And I just dedicated my all of my 20s to work to the same thing, right? Tunnel vision, money, money, money. And now, not to give up my age, but I'm gonna be 31 in October,
We're
and
born the
you're,
same year.
and if my priorities changed in my life, right? I'm starting to want different things. My
Absolutely.
priorities change. I'm a woman, so I want that family life. I want to,
As you
you know
should.
what I
For
mean,
yeah.
sacrifice. You don't need to be making so much money.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have to make yourself happy, and you have to be able to. The thing that's gonna make me happy is to have a family and to have kids, obviously, and
That's
teach
beautiful,
them.
man.
and
Wow.
and I'm willing to give everything up to be a stay-at-home mom and to like teach my kids and educate them and raise them to be like me. And we spoke about this. I'm not
We
gonna spoil
did.
my kids.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be well
Maria's not
off,
gonna spoil
but
the kids.
no, I'm gonna put obstacles in their course, just so that they know how to jump over these hurdles, and how to build grit and have a strong character, and you know what I mean. Like they have to
Yeah,
learn.
you're so right because when I was a kid, I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, and this is me being young and ignorant. I'm watching TV. I think I was watching the Brady Bunch shows, one of them shows.
Mhm.
I'm like, Dad, you know, white people give their kids allowance money on like Fridays and stuff. I'm like, all I gotta do is like clean the house, do my chores. I'm like, how much will you pay me? My dad is like, why should I pay you to clean a house that you live in? Why?
Exactly. That's
And I looked at that and I'm just like, he goes, one in life, every time you do something, you're not always guaranteed salary or compensation. Some things just require you doing. He goes, two, the amount of hard work that you put in will always dictate what kind of person you are. It don't matter if you're a piece of shit in life. When people know you as a hard worker, you'll always have work. That mindset, that mentality, that my dad gave to me, not saying I'm a piece of shit person, but that got me through life in terms of how I talk to people, how I reason with people. Even when we disagree, there's always something to be learned. Your perception, as you said earlier, plays such a vital part in your success. When they were telling your dad, no, 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 no,
Mhm.
he told himself yes because he perceived it to be yes. Now, you speak about your dad a lot,
Mhm.
and I know it's you, but I also have the privilege of knowing your mom and knowing your sister. Now, usually during a podcast, I always ask people who are the members of their villages that helped them get to the point in which they got to, right? And I know you spoke heavily about your dad, but I want you to tell me about the other members of your village.
Mhm.
Your sister, who I know means the world to you. Your
Mhm.
mom, who's very near and dear to your heart and always makes me popcorn.
Right.
But what do they mean for you in your life?
So for my mother, right?
Yeah.
So going back to your point where you were talking about delayed gratification,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously during the time when I was younger, I didn't appreciate my father as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine, you're a kid. I'm a girl. You tend to be more emotional.
Yeah.
You have your father always telling you, get up, work, go to school. It doesn't matter if you're in pain, if you have a headache, work. He's like, oh, tired, tired. What about, yeah, you're gonna be tired in Mexico, poverty, being hungry. Here you have the opportunity to go seek out whatever you need. So he was very hard, very hard, sometimes hard enough that obviously it's tough on a young kid,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So during that time you're there like, oh, I hate my father, he's
Yeah.
so mean, he's so strict on me, I wish I had a different father, right? Obviously years later you come to realize that
Absolutely. It's
you
what
owe
you
him your
needed.
whole life, right? It's what you needed.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I was so thankful that my mother is the complete opposite of my father. She was the one that always held it down for me. She was the one that always was taking care of us and making sure we were good, and she was always cooking for us and bringing us home from school. She was always there, like being a great mother, feeling making us feel loved and secure and taken care of. um I mean, she was picking me up from school until I was like an embarrassing age. It was probably like 15, like
It's your mom.
16. It's my
It's your
mom. I
mom.
was like,
It's your
ma,
mom.
and she was, thank God she was the complete opposite of my father. That it was
Yeah.
just, it was just me, my mom, and my sister always together, and always, we were always in a good mood, and she was
Family
so
vibes.
loving,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Very warm.
Whereas my father, he's more doesn't really show emotion, until now. Now he's getting a little older. Now he's like,
Yeah.
me, I love you.
Opening. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
love you
that's
too,
it.
daddy.
Yeah.
And my sister, she was just been my partner in crime for like
That's
forever.
it.
That's my homeboy,
That's it.
So she's just, I mean, you know her too. Like,
Absolutely.
she's a she's a pretty tough cookie
Yeah, you
too.
see
She's,
Maria, you see Fabi.
yeah, and and that just goes to show that she's just like me also, and she also has the same mentality,
Same
right?
business
So,
mind.
right.
Absolutely.
So it goes to show that who raises you and how a father plays a big role in kids' life, but especially daughters. And I mean, my father, kudos to him, because I feel like he did a great job. I mean, we're grateful and we know what we are because of my father. So,
Absolutely.
so that's the whole family
That's the family,
dynamic right
but those
there.
those are like the immediate members of your village, right? These are the
Right.
people who wrap their arms around you and they say, "Hey, listen, we got you no matter what." Now, with having a family that tight knit, how is it with friends in your life? Are you someone who keeps friends? Are you somebody who's able to rely on friends? Do you have a big group, a small group?
Right.
Are those people members of your village?
Okay, so I wouldn't say I have a big circle. I
Okay.
mean, I feel like there's a difference between, people that you go out with and hang
Yes.
out with and party with and drink with, Obviously, I know I'm here all the time. I have a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
people that like love coming here,
Mm-hmm.
hanging out, having a drink with me, you know what I mean? Like talking with me about whatever it is,
Absolutely.
politics. But
Maria loves her politics.
100%. But I feel like as you get older and you learn that the word friendship, it shouldn't be like thrown
You can't throw
all
that word
around
around. Yeah.
very easily, and
Yeah.
and then you realize that not a lot of people really have like the best interest for you, and
Mm-hmm.
so my circle is pretty small, very small, very very small. I don't have many like friends,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay because you don't want your circle. It's better to have quality over quantity. You don't want to say, oh yeah, just because you have 10, 100 friends, you feel like accomplished. No, you rather have one great friend for 10 years, or one great, five friends that are really like down for you no matter what. And like I said, like I prioritize what my group talks about. I don't want to I want to talk. I want my friends to have the same mentality as me, so that we challenge each other, we push each other, we motivate each other, we talk about different things. That's how I see it.
I mean, listen, I'm right there with you. It's so funny because Jay Z, one of my favorite rappers, he has a line that goes, there isn't many of us. And then his response was, I told them less is more. There's plenty of us. So those group of people that you have around you, it never has to be big. It just has to be sufficient.
Hmm.
It has to just be good enough for you. They
Right.
have to be able to water you, and you have to be able to water them, and everybody grows in the same garden.
Hmm.
It's such a special thing when you can come to that level of realization in life.
Hmm.
When you could come to love and you could say, I don't need a lot of things to be happy. I don't need a lot of money to
Hmm.
feel successful. I don't need all of these frivolous things around me to feel wholesome. You
Hmm.
understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And when you come to that level in maturity, I feel like you eventually start to live a little bit better.
Right.
Certain things that you would argue about years ago, it's not important anymore.
Right.
You know, your life is now based on how you treat others and the impact that you have
Hmm.
on not even just yourself and your friends, but the following generations to come. You know, I don't know too many people who own businesses, right? I don't know too many people who have restaurants and lounges. You were like one of the first. And the beautiful thing about it is, I'm only a couple months older than you know? And it's like, if this is what you're doing, anybody could do it too with the
100%.
right mindset. So I always like to tell my guests, if no one tells you, these wings were phenomenal, by the way, I'm still eating. But if no one tells you how much of a great job you're doing, I'm going to tell you, you are doing a phenomenal job. Not everything needs to be measured in money. You're
Hmm.
doing a great job from when you started to look at where you at now. And you know what's even more wholesome about our interactions? I've watched the shift in mentality and in priority, because when I first met you, it's, these are my goals. I'm getting to these goals. And now at 31, you're like, you know what, Jesse? I want to make that shift. I want a family now.
Hmm.
How like wholesome is that?
Crazy.
How many people want to shoot for that? And I'm praying, God blesses you in abundance with a good family, a lot of children, healthy children, because like people like you guys deserve this. You put in all this work for so long. Something has to come back.
All right.
And maybe it'll come back tenfold, maybe 20-fold. But when you're up for a blessing because of how you treated people. I've walked through this door 1,000 times. Mango margarita is always ready.
Facts.
Flower in the glass is always ready. Wings is always here. So if no one tells you, I want to personally tell you thank you for everything that you do. Your doors have
Aw.
always been open. You've always been down to earth, even though we disagree on everything. But I always learn the most from you because I feel like in disagreement, you learn the most, you know?
Right.
Even though we share the similarities of both being conservatives, not all the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a decent place. And a lot of our conversations are usually community based. What
Mm-hmm.
can we do for our people?
Right.
Stop waiting on this person or this person to get in office. What can we do now? How many times have we spoke about, yo, just open up your computer and Google it?
Mm-hmm.
It's there. Are you going to be proactive? And you've been one of the most proactive people in my life. I consider you as a member of my village because these talks really lit the fire underneath me. So instead of just waiting for the right time to have a podcast, I refer back to my favorite Maria quote: "Why not now?"
Right.
You know, so from the bottom of my heart, from me personally and the Just Takes a Village platform, we want to tell you thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your experience. And it's just like that. Any parting words? Any pieces of advice?
I mean,
You
thank
know,
you
a
so
lot of the
much.
kids in my class watch this, so you know.
Oh, okay. No, I'm thankful that I met you. Oh my
Yeah,
God, like we go way back and
yeah,
from where we started and like where we're at now. Like I'm so grateful and it's a blessing. And I'm just so happy that you had me on your show and that I can talk about my experience.
absolutely,
And I appreciate you too a lot. You know what I mean? Like we've had some crazy disagreements, but
absolutely.
I would like people to learn that disagreeing is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
It's a great thing as long as you're able to respect
yeah,
the people that you're talking to, willing to learn and accept a different point of view.
absolutely,
And as long as you go into a conversation willing to learn and to
absolutely.
learn how to navigate through differences, that's how we can all, improve as individuals,
Right,
as a community, and as a nation, really.
absolutely.
So,
You know, that's one thing I would say. And I don't want anybody to misconstrue when Maria says we have disagreements, right? Usually when me and Maria have disagreements, we'll give an example. A car is driving up the street, it hits a pothole, right? I would say, why is that pothole there? You know, like what the hell? Like
oh,
we gotta fix this. Like, what are we paying taxes for? Maria would say, why weren't you paying attention? You know? And that really sums up the
that's so true.
relationship.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
guys so
yeah.
much for tuning in, and it's just like that.